If you saw Etsy's latest update about listing titles, you may be wondering whether or not you need to update your listings before the busy holiday season. Especially since Etsy's also rolling out an all-new AI tool that will auto-generate titles for you. And they're even prompting sellers to use this tool to mass update their shops, using their new best practices for titles. However, I have evidence to believe that making these recommended changes to your titles could literally destroy your business right before the holiday season. So before you touch a thing in your shop, here's what you need to know about Etsy's most recent update. For anyone who may be new here, my name is Starla Moore, founder of the Handmade Alpha Academy for Etsy sellers and manager at erank.com, Etsy's most popular SEO tool. And as I'm sure you've guessed already, working for Etsy's largest SEO integration means that understanding Etsy's algorithm and updates is literally my entire job. And anytime there's an update to the algorithm, myself and the entire erank team takes these updates very seriously. Which is why when I actually started reading the updated best practices for titles that Etsy published last week, I became more and more nervous. Because honestly, I feel that Etsy's done a terrible job of educating sellers about this update, causing many to literally tank their traffic and sales during what should be the lead up to the holiday season. Currently, across Facebook, the Etsy forums, and YouTube, sellers are talking about this huge Etsy algorithm change. And at first glance, it does look like Etsy changed their algorithm. However, when it comes to any article that Etsy publishes, it's important to really review the wording they use. Something that myself and the erank team do frequently in order to figure out when updates actually occur, versus when existing guidelines are just clarified. And in line with Josh Silverman's Q3 2024 mission statements about making Etsy's ranking criteria more transparent to sellers in 2025, it seems that Etsy hasn't actually changed anything algorithmically. The article states that Etsy is introducing updated guidance for effective listing titles, not that their algorithm is changing. In the newly updated best practices, Etsy advises that sellers remove keywords from their title related to gift recipients, occasions, or holidays, unless the item itself is themed specifically for that occasion or holiday. For example, in this sweatshirt listing, under Etsy's new guidance, it would be advisable to remove the term gift for reader and move this term into my tags instead, shortening the title. Over the last year, Etsy's been trying to differentiate itself from mass-produced platforms like Amazon, Alibaba, and Temu, eliminating nearly 3 million sellers last year alone who were violating Etsy's handmade policies. So encouraging sellers to use more short-form, concise, and shopper-friendly titles makes sense. Through Etsy's internal research, they found that listings that utilize short and concise titles are more likely to convert due to clarity. And while all of that makes perfect sense in theory, there's a huge oversight that Etsy either isn't seeing or that they're choosing not to see. Let me explain. When it comes to Etsy's ranking algorithm, keyword relevancy is just one of many factors that Etsy uses in order to pair your listings with relevant searches. And relevancy is important. However, when it comes to listings that are already performing well, such as those that have been listed for a while, and that have positive shopper interactions such as organic discoveries, favorites, sales, and positive reviews, this positive track record held by this listing is the primary force that helps the listing to rank. Based on Etsy's personalization technology, Etsy's observed your listing for long enough that they've figured out exactly what it is, who is most likely to buy it, and who they should pair that item with in search. So what happens when you edit the title of a listing that Etsy's already figured out? You're essentially telling Etsy that the keywords that you wanted to be known for and the ones that they were previously ranking you for are no longer what you want to be known for. You wipe the slate, and that highway of traffic that was once being directed to your listing gets snipped. In fact, after Etsy made this announcement and started prompting sellers to update all of their titles, we saw a number of reports reports from sellers whose high-performing shops dropped off the face of the earth overnight, all due to the change that Etsy told them to make. And in response to this, our team at eRank immediately began pushing seller education to warn shop owners not to touch listings that are already performing well in their shops. As has always been the rule, but it's hard when Etsy makes it seem like making these updates are required. Now, I'm not saying that Etsy isn't trying to do the right thing. As I said, their internal conversion data does show that shoppers prefer these shorter titles because aesthetically, they look more professional. In fact, when it comes to new listings or items that aren't performing well in your shop, I absolutely recommend giving these new best practices a try. But when it comes to listings that Etsy's already identified a target audience for and that are seeing great traffic as is, they absolutely should have provided a disclaimer to sellers about not touching these items. In short, don't rush to change all of your listings. Always test and experiment with a new listing or underperformer if you want to try out the title recommendations. And for the love of all that is sunshine and rainbows, don't change your high-performing listings. Until next time, Pookie.
Hey guys, Monday morning editor Starla here. I totally forgot to mention that the Alpha Holiday Boot Camp goes up for sale this Thursday. I'm going to leave the link down below. I had to throw this in at the end of the video. That way you guys have the opportunity to check it out. On Thursday, there will be a 35% discount on the enrollment price, so you're not going to want to miss that pricing tier. There will be a link to a waiting list down below. I'll also throw it somewhere on the screen so that you don't miss out, and make sure that you get an email notification right when doors for our annual boot camp opens this year. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do a lot with SEO and the eRank team and some marketing and some mindset. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure you check it out.